I waited. All right, sorry, that's a really old, like 90s song. But I want to talk to you about waiting. Seems to be one of the biggest struggles for any manifester. Why do we have to wait? Well, first off, I want to actually answer that by saying that's the wrong question. But I'm still going to answer it for you, okay? But we really shouldn't be concerned about waiting, because there is a time differential, which means there is something that happens, okay? And that in that you have to start seeing this, your mind, the psychology of this human avatar body, right, as you accessing another realm. Even Neville says it this way, right? That it's almost like you are jumping into a multiverse where you are experiencing firsthand, not secondhand, not third hand, not fourth hand. You're not reading a story, right? You're experiencing it firsthand from the first perspective of something that's already happened. So then there's a time dimension here that only exists as now. That's it, okay? So in that dimension, and that's what you have to really start thinking of. Like, don't think of this as your mind, that you're going into, okay, I'm just going into my mind and I'm imagining. Because that's really what we get taught, right? Oh, just grow up, right? Oh, just, move on from using your imagination, right? And so we kind of get locked into society and all the social pressures and all of that kind of stuff. And we actually are supposed to de-evolve in that sense, meaning go back to a space where we actually start really honoring the imagination, right? And realizing that everything is birthed out of here anyhow. So then what we're doing is we're just accessing our human potential. And I think that's a better way to respond to your question. Why do I have to wait? Why is there a waiting period? Well, let's use the biblical analogy of the potter, right? Which the word potter means imagination, okay? What do? Well, as a potter, if you want to go make a plate, you don't just go make a plate, right? You go and you begin molding, and you begin creating the ridges, and you begin creating the design if you want. Whatever it is, you can be as creative as you want, right? But you use that time as part of the process, right? And the process is what? Well, beforehand, it was just a lump of clay. But now you're building into it the potential. And so that's all it is. If you really, really want to understand time, it's just process and potential combined. Okay? And that's a better way to understand, right? I feel like I'm saying I'm crazy, but like that's a better way to understand how and what is happening when there is a time component. Because, for example, I manifested something within a half an hour this week, right? And that's awesome. That's amazing. And we all have that ability. But then something else might take 2 years, like it did for Neville's brother and the business, right? Whatever it might be, that is really down to us. Even Neville says this, right? And sometimes he even argues that one of the major reasons why is because we don't intensify our scenes enough, or we don't drench them enough in the feelings of the wish fulfilled, meaning you're not convinced enough, right? You aren't convinced that you are already it. Because if we were, dude, you could manifest overnight. You could manifest probably quicker than that, right? But we always take this time, and that time is the process. In fact, even Carlos Rovelli, the well-known quantum physicist, says, we need to remove this idea that time exists, but then also understand that what we understand as time is really just an unfolding process, right? And that's all it is. So for example, if let's say that you're trying to manifest a free meal somewhere, okay? Well, then check this out. You driving to this place is the time, is the process. You getting seated by the waiter or waitress is the process. You going to the bathroom, washing your hands, whatever you do in a restaurant setting, all of that, every small thing, big thing, all of it is just the process unfolding. That's all that it is. And see, that will take away the pressure of, oh crap, I don't have it. One, you already have it here. And I get that there is a time differential. I don't like to say gaps, because that then assumes that there's a form of loss. There's no such thing as loss, except that you believe in loss, right? And so there's no loss of time. And the Hebrew idea of waiting is extremely poetic and beautiful. And I've shared this in as it's connected to the word hope, right? Because the word wait and hope are very connected in the Hebrew mind. And the idea is that it's expectation. It's excited anticipation and knowing. It's both combined. It's saying, I know something's coming and I know it's going to be here. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I am part of this process. And that's the other thing. you are not separate from the process. So check this out. Let's go back to the restaurant idea, okay? There's one common denominator in that whole process. You driving, you walking out of the car to the front door, you saying hello and talking to the person, the maitre d', whatever it is, you being seated, you ordering drinks, you ordering food, you eating. What's the common denominator? You, right? That is you. So the process is about you. So that's what's happening here. So what it seems to be is a time gap in this world, because we measure things by minutes and clocks, right? Which is really not healthy. And it actually causes undue and unnecessary anxiety and anger and upset and entitlement and all of this kind of stuff. And yes, there is a form of spiritual entitlement that you need to bring to the table, right? Meaning, I deserve this, this is mine, and nobody else does, and I love this object, I love this thing, right? And that's the mentality that you have to be. That's what brazen impudence means when Neville says we need to use that as a technique, right? And that means I deserve this in the way in which I know I deserve it, right? And that's circular. I get it, right? I deserve it because I deserve it, okay? So I really, really want you to get that time isn't happening. You are happening.